Rob Weiner is a former spokesperson for Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, long-term friend of Joe Biden, speaking to us live from very close to the Capitol in Washington. Mr. Weiner, welcome to Talk Radio.
Mark, it's good to be with you. Let's see if this works. I was trying with Chris. Can you see the Capitol right in the background now?
Oh, let's have a look. Let's show me through the window. I'm having a look. I can see a blue sky, and I can see the outline of the building. Look, you are there. The proof is tangible, and your pal is now in the White House. Tell me about your emotions at this moment.
We are going to move into healing and a rational government. Your parliament, Chris and Mark, your parliament was right to ban Trump from coming. You knew it when. You knew it early in. It took the United States 2 impeachments for his popularity to sink to 29. And now we are in a position of healing and true government where we'll get some collaborative things done. Today, the joint meetings with Biden and McConnell and Harris and Pelosi, it really showed the start of a new era.
He entered political life at the very tender age of 27.
I knew him.
It's amazing. Did he show then in those early years that the promise that would lead him to the White House?
Well, he was the youngest U.S. senator. We were both in our 20s. I did a youth vote for him in Delaware when I worked at the Watergate for the Democratic National Committee as its youth vote coordinator.
When he actually won, wasn't he too young to be sworn in?
Not by the time he was sworn in, only when he was elected.
Amazing.
So that's why it was legal. So we were very excited about him. Then he tried several times. He made some mistakes along the way. He forgot to credit a British politician. You know the story, and was harassed about plagiarism. So he had to withdraw from that race. He just didn't use the credit. He used the great line. So now he is president of the United States. It's the perfect moment for Joe, the healing person, the person who has empathy because of his tragedy. I knew him when he had his former family, his former wife and child who were killed in the car crash. That's when I was in his kitchen with him. And he said to my wife a couple of years ago when we had a portrait unveiling that I was in his kitchen. I was in his kitchen when he first ran for Senate. He looked at Pat and he said, "That's exactly right." So we're thrilled that he's in now. He's the right person for the right time. It's like Gerald Ford, who came in after Nixon and said our long national nightmare is over.
Well, is it the right president, but the wrong decade? He has waited now into his late 70s. Many worry about his energy levels or even his brain power and cognition. I mean, can you deal with that suggestion that maybe even mentally he's not quite up to the job?
You know, I was chief of staff of the House Aging Committee, and we abolished mandatory retirement and said people should be fired for their competence, not for their age. Did you see any loss of energy in that speech today? It was one of the most brilliant and best delivered that I've seen in inauguration. I've been to all of them. So I think you're off the mark. I got to tell you, my dear friend, because I love you guys. But he and Clyburn and Pelosi, they've done a whale of a job. There should be no age discrimination in any country, but there should be merit-based hiring and firing.
On a personal level, as you said, very, very sadly, he lost his wife and young daughter in an awful car crash. His sons were injured but survived. How did that awful tragedy shape his worldview and his outlook and even his politics going forward?
That and his brain aneurysm some 25 years ago, where everybody thought he was going to die. This man has known tragedy. And to come into a country where there are 400,000 dead, led by an inept president who wouldn't admit that there was a problem that needed to be solved, and now to have to rescue it and to bring the vaccines in. By the way, Britain has done a great job in leading with vaccines and taking charge of the situation. So he is the right person. And I think, Chris, that and Mark, I think that like to give credit to
Listen, I love to give my producer credit because he set up the interview, and I couldn't do this show without Chris, without Lewis, without Amy, without Chuck, without Harry. So Robert, but yes, go on.
Well, the legislation that is necessary, the infrastructure bill, the rejoining the Paris Accords, the rejoining the Iran nuclear accord, the end of the regulations that are giving environmental giveaways to the big corporations and destroying the world. All of that, jobs, and education, stopping the crisis of student loans. Everything that is necessary, he's going to take charge of. The $1.9 trillion bill that's about to go before Congress for rescue from the COVID economic disaster. All of that, Trump was nowhere. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the mini bill that was just
Now,
passed
Robert,
a little bit ago.
everything that you told me will be music to the ears of the 80 million people, 80 million plus, that voted for Joe Biden. But this neglects the 74, 75 million who voted for Donald Trump just a matter of weeks ago. How is he going to get those people on board, and how is he going to deliver for them?
Well, it doesn't neglect them. How does COVID release neglect those who died of both parties? It does not. How does highways? Our trains are sick compared to Europe's. Yours go 300 miles an hour and ours go 80. How does that compare? How does that stop the need for health care? The 25 million that have no health insurance in America.
Well, Robert, taxes,
your wonderful plan.
High taxes, inflation, interest rates, national
Okay,
debt, economic ruin.
Let me address that. Trump gave away $2 trillion to millionaires and billionaires, and a tiny piece of that only went to the lowest 99% in America. Biden will reverse that and pull the funds that those guys like Warren Buffett said we don't even need. We don't need the money. So it's a matter of use of the money, not adding money to the budget. Biden is a centrist. He is not a big deficit spender, but he knows where to get the money from in a fair and proportionate way.
Robert, your friend is in the White House. He will spend his first night there this evening. He will be in the Oval Office tomorrow. His first 100 days will be key. We're expecting a lot of announcements. Can you tell me what it means for this guy, what his emotions will be at this time?
He is in love with the country. He made the point that it's not about self. It's about the country. It's about the nation. We rescued democracy away from the Trump-supported coup. That is what he is all about. He is for reason and truth. And he made a point of talking about truth instead of the myths of not using science, but being in abrasive politic division as a strategy. So that's what he's about, is bringing everybody together. He has always been that way. Sometimes to criticism from the left, sometimes from criticism from the right. But he is a person who will bring the country together, and it will be jobs for all. You probably saw Ron Klain's memo, his chief of staff, of the first 10 days with a host of executive orders and legislation that very easily would go through now. And don't forget, by the way, that we now, because of the backlash against Trump in Georgia, there is a Senate Democratic majority. And so that's one reason why Mitch McConnell has no love. And even in the impeachment conviction vote, McConnell may vote to convict Trump. And he's acted in a selfish way right all the way through. So this legislation, not only because we now have the votes, but because people are in a mood to get something done, and because Trump's popularity has sunk to the lowest of any president in history at 29 and 33, pick your poll. And I remember telling Bill Clinton as he left, you're at 65 and 70, depending on the poll. That's the most ever. And he said, I got to put that in my book. Those popularity numbers mean a lot to people. And Trump's is at an abyss. So this stuff may go through, and it will be for the good of the country and the healing of the world and the leadership of America in joint partnership with Britain, because we love you guys, even though you tried to have a revolution against us a couple times.
Yes.
But, so we look forward to working with you again and having a rational situation where the world can go forward. I agree with Pelosi, who said a night ago on national television, the country may not have survived another 4 years of Trump.
Well, we love you too, Robert. Wonderful to have you on the show. Rob Weiner is the former spokesperson for Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and a long-term friend of Joe Biden, speaking to us from the US outside the Capitol in Washington. He showed us with his laptop. Fantastic stuff. He was right to give credit to my producer, Chris and Lewis, Amy, Harry and Chuck.